I used to love it when there was a strike because of the soup kitchens and the camaraderie and all the entertainment. And I remember being severely chastised one time when I actually said, "Oh, this is so much fun, I wish there were more strikes."
I thought that, for example, that saffron was poor people food, because when there was a strike, you had frog's legs with saffron, and I think they must have stolen it off the ships.
The 6-month strike was won by the Union with the help and support of the ILWU membership on the Pacific Coast. The victory signaled the end of economic dictatorship by the Big Five and guaranteed labor a place at the table of island economics.
When the real history books of these islands are written, when we pause to look at the past struggles of workers in these islands, the Longshore Strike in 1949 will stand out as a monument to the resistance of the little people.
But this success did not stop the attempts to split the Union over the so-called red issue. An anti-communist witch hunt was sweeping the nation, led by Senator Joseph McCarthy. Because it has never been illegal for anyone in the United States to belong to the Communist Party or any other political party, people were prosecuted for violation of the Smith Act, which forbids knowingly or willfully advocating the overthrow of the U.S. government by force or violence. People with communist, socialist, or liberal affiliations were indiscriminately accused of violating the Smith Act and plotting violent revolution.
It was during a period about which we can't be very proud of. People lost their jobs as a result, not only on American universities, but people also committed suicide because the weight was so heavy.
The people were scared, and neighbors were turned against neighbors, and families were broken up in some cases. It was awful.
The point is that what was happening after World War II was an effort to dismantle that successful, radical democratic leadership across the board.
Though Hall, like many trade unionists, had socialist values, he had long outgrown the revolutionary ideas of his younger years and was no longer a member of the Communist Party. His allegiance was to the ILWU and whatever would advance the Union.
Certainly for those who live in our nation who are so exploited by the present situation, they should feel, or they should know, that these individuals truly believed that there was a different way of ordering the economic system which would make for better happiness, for better realization of one's self.
He thought that the communists in the United States were not pragmatic, and that the things that they wanted wouldn't work, and that he was very pragmatic.
In April of 1950, at the urging of Territorial Governor Ingram Steinbach, the House Committee on Un-American Activities came to investigate communism in Hawaii. Jack Hall was called before the committee. He and 39 others, known as the Reluctant 39, all pled the Fifth Amendment and refused to answer any questions. They were charged with contempt of court, but later acquitted on constitutional grounds. Hall filed the customary non-communist affidavit with the National Labor Relations Board.
I filed a sworn affidavit declaring that I was not then, at least, a member of the Communist Party. I was not required to do so. I did so because there were cannibalistic unions trying to split and divide us. Now, if the affidavit were fraudulent, does anyone in their right mind believe for even a minute that I would not have been prosecuted for perjury?
In July of 1951, a disgruntled and resentful member of the ILWU and former member of the Communist Party was urged by a local lawyer to go to Washington and testify in a closed-door session before the House Un-American Activities Committee.
The desertion of the weak, the greedy, the selfish, and the self-styled union leaders seeking their security at the expense of the rank and file has not weakened this union. It has made us stronger. It has tempered us in a crucible of fire.
After the testimony, the U.S. Attorney General's office decided to come to Hawaii to make Smith Act prosecutions. On August 28, 1951, Jack Hall was arrested at 6:30 a.m. on violation of the Smith Act.
Yeah, what I remember is that my mother woke me up and told me that, that he had been arrested and that she didn't know exactly why. I do remember my mother saying, "It's going to be okay, it's going to be okay,"
6 other persons besides Hall were arrested: Charles and Eileen Fujimoto, John Reinecke, James Freeman, Koji Ariyoshi, and Jack Kimoto. Collectively, they were called the Hawaii Seven. Though released on bail, Jack faced a taxing court battle. There were long hearings, and the trial itself would drag on for 6 months. I don't know how I survived it or how Jack survived it, because he carried on his job. He used to go to work really early, leave the house about 6. He'd work, and then he'd be in court nearly all day. Went back to the office, get whatever work done he had to get done.
And of course, Jack should never have been dragged into that trial anyway. He shouldn't have been in there. And it was a union-busting tactic. The government needed a device to cripple unions, and that was a good one.
One of Jack's main concerns throughout this ordeal was the union's well-being. Against the advice of his lawyers, he delivered a statement to the rank and file.
I would do nothing to hurt this union. I've dedicated practically my entire adult life to building it. And in the span of years, I have worked through and with any group or individual who, in my mind, I thought had something to contribute to building and strengthening the union in this territory. Any other policy, in view of the violent, shrewd, and almost overwhelming opposition of the Big Five, would have been naive and unrealistic. I drew the line at no one and no group, and I would not do so today.
Support from the rank and file was overwhelming and included testimonial dinners and events on all islands.
Communism was depicted as some big red boogeyman, and they'll come and, take over overthrow the government by force and violence. And, any common sense will tell you that this was not possible. And so we kind of left it off, and everybody concentrated on what the union was doing.